Welcome back into Exit 99 Sports, as always. My name is Caleb Deloach, and, another week passing by here of the high school sports calendar. The fall, we're officially into, technically, I think just September 22nd is when that started, so we're officially into fall, even though it's pretty warm out there. So we are in the heart of football season. We are, halfway through the year already. And we have a lot of, good ball games going on across all sports, a lot of good volleyball going on, some really good soccer, some softball. A lot to talk about. And, I'll be doing it by myself here. So when I do that, I get a little bit wordy. So we'll jump right in. This past week, we will start in O'Fallon, Missouri, which is where Cape Central took on St. Dominic. And both those teams came in undefeated. I kind of got this game wrong in a lot of ways where I predicted it to be close, competitive game, which I will say that that was right. But I thought the big X factor for St. Dominic was going to be their pass game. They came in, Brennan Chechen, really good quarterback. He had 15 touchdowns, no interceptions, about 1,000 yards on the season coming into it. And, that was going to be the first real, let me pause for a second, first real passing game that, Cape Central has seen. So I thought that would be an issue, put some pressure on their defensive backfield. But no, it was the opposite. The St. Dominic run game ran over, around, and through Cape Central to the tune of almost 300 yards, 295 is what was on their what they wrote down, their stats for 50 carries. 50 carries, 295 yards, almost 6 yards a carry. And St. Dominic did win 20-7. So Cape loses their first ball game of the season. St. Dominic up in Class 6, District 4, stays undefeated. Interesting to follow them the rest of the way here. But, yeah, it was a little bit of an ugly game, especially if you're a Cape Central fan. Not a lot to report on as far as numbers go. I mentioned St. Dominic as a team ran for almost 300 yards. Their quarterback that I was really high on, Cape Central did really good against. He only went 9 of 15, 100 yards, 1 interception. The issue was that the Cape Central offense could do almost nothing the entire ball game. They finished with 7 points, and that one touchdown came on a well-called play, busted coverage, whoever you want to give credit or take credit away from. Cape ran the read run pass option essentially, and St. Dominic went for, they crashed down, their corner crashed and their safety crashed, and Jathan Spain streaked down the seam wide open. Long touchdown pass there, but outside of that, there was almost nothing through the air. I think that touchdown was over 60 yards. And Aiden McGuire at quarterback finished with only 71 yards passing, had 2 interceptions. Torrance Murray, who's been an automatic, 100-yard guy, he had 12 carries for 39 yards. There was nothing worked. Just kind of from the start of the game, it was a little concerning. St. Dominic marched down the field, scored heavy dose, Dominic Paolo, a kid that was, I think, their third leading rusher coming into the game, but he was averaging 10 yards a carry. He ran for over 200 yards. He had 33 carries. They just rode that kid throughout the ball game. And Cape really struggled to move the ball early. They did get one big positive there early on before the touchdown, which was Martavian Robinson got an interception, kind of a jump ball one-on-one scenario there in the end zone. But it's 1 step forward, 2 step back, because on the next possession after the interception, McGuire throws an interception, and then immediately St. Dominic just 3 yards in a cloud of dust it right down their throat to go up 14-0. But they answered, like I said, hit the long touchdown pass to Jathan Spain, which has been cool to see. Jathan was a guy who, committed to SEMO in the offseason, and it was like, hey, this kid hardly touched the ball last season. Like, what are we going to, hopefully they get him more involved, yada, yada. He's humongous, good athlete. He plays every sport, and he's really good and really productive in all of them. And, yeah, they've got him really involved this season in the pass game. I've been excited. Obviously, he is a good blocker, which I understand. They do want to run the ball. and he does a great job, leveling defensive ends. But I like that they've got him more involved in the pass game. And he got another, that touchdown here today. So he's putting up numbers this season, which I'm happy to see. And then to close out the half, Cape was able to get a turnover on downs to keep St. Dominic from stretching out the lead there. And then, the second half, it's just the same thing. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Cape gets a stop. And then, I was watched a live stream, kind of looked like a bad exchange, bad handoff on a jet sweep. Ball gets on the ground. St. Dominic gets it. And then what do? Once again, they took advantage of really good field position because Cape fumbled on their side of the field and just drove right down the field and scored a touchdown. Goes up 20-7. And Cape just could not move the ball. They forced another turnover on downs early in the fourth quarter. But did nothing with it. They got the ball back again with 6 or so minutes left after a bad snap. And then, tried to push the ball downfield through an interception that essentially ended the game. Like I said, just kind of the things that were plaguing them. I mean, they could not run the ball whatsoever. I don't know what that was a product of. I mean, you don't want to be too critical, but this felt like, the first time that Cape had played somebody their size or bigger, probably their level or better athletically. They just couldn't really find the mismatches that they had been used to seeing all year. It was a lot harder. They were stonewalling the run. Like I said, Torrance Murray, 39 yards is shocking to see and hear that number. Especially early in the game, St. Dominic had guys in the backfield nearly as soon as the ball was snapped. McGuire had no time to really find anybody. He was kind of running for his life. And, that was a good it's a good learning moment for him. It sucks. You're just sprinting backwards or sideways as soon as the ball is snapped half the time, which makes your life difficult. But, I think the progression is even in, guys that are really good right now, like a Drew Parsons at Jackson. The biggest step he took is like, hey, if I'm in trouble, I'm not going to then throw the ball into double, triple coverage here. He's taking care of the ball really, really well this year, and so that's the thing for McGuire where he was throwing off his back foot. There was, 2 or 3 other times where the ball was thrown up into a whole crowd of people and got knocked down, thankfully. But it's just another teaching moment. Like I said, this was a big test. It's going to get tougher next week. We'll get there. But overall, positive. I think the secondary played really well for Cape. I mentioned they limited a really good quarterback they picked him off for his first interception of the season by Martavian Robinson, so shout out to him. He's had a really good year, offensively and defensively, so I've been impressed with him. The secondary played well. They didn't really give up much space at all. The pass rush did really well also. They got to the quarterback, made his life difficult, but they could not stop the run whatsoever. And, it continued throughout the ball game. As the game waned, St. Dominic just milked the clock. 20-7, obviously very low scoring, but they just kept it on the ground. Like I said, they averaged almost 6 yards a carry. That's pretty much what it felt like too. That's a dumb thing to say in a way, but it's just like handoff, 5 yards, handoff, 2 yards. Oh, behind the sticks, handoff, 15 yards. It was just bang, bang, bang. They were just, I was really impressed. St. Dominic had good size up front, but yeah, they were just very, very dominant. It's a tough way to go out. First loss of the season, 20-7. It won't hurt Cape a lot as far as just, district stuff goes because they played a Class 6 school. I don't know what it all figures into. St. Dominic's undefeated, so I know that's part of it is your opponent's wins and stuff like that, and their record against other people, blah, blah, blah. There's like 1,000 numbers. I don't really understand it, but it doesn't really hurt Cape too much, stuff like that, because they played a bigger team. And so overall, like I said, good learning experience. They're about to hit a wall going 60 miles an hour in next week, I think. But this will help them later in the season as it goes on. It doesn't get easier at all for Cape. If there is a criticism as well, They start the season. You don't have so much control. You don't have control over who's in your conference. Sykes and Poplar Bluff back-to-back weeks. Okay, not the greatest opponents. And then, start off the season, New Madrid County Central, smaller school, St. Charles West, smaller school. Like I said, maybe they got into some bad habits, things like that, but life is coming at them very, very fast here in the middle of the schedule. You got St. Dominic this past week. You got Jackson. You've got Farmington, who looks very good. You got Lift for Life, who's very good. And you finished with a good Kennett team, a revived Kennett team, already with 3 wins this year. So, I said, we'll talk about the future a little bit more later, but I still think they're in a good spot. I like what I've seen. I like Murray. I want to see more of Bridges. I don't know what's happened to Izzy Bridges. Like I said, get him more involved. Breon Clemens. All the some of the option looks that had been working for them were completely shut down in the ballgame. And it's going to lead to maybe some turnovers next week if it doesn't get cleaned up. Some of the, sprint out backward passes to like outside the numbers things. It worked all right against the St. Charles West of the world and things like that. It probably won't work next week. So keep finding creative ways to get Breon Clemens involved, get Martavian Robinson the ball, get Jathan Spain the ball, get Bridges, keep Murray involved, things like that. And McGuire early in the year looked really good using his legs on some of these earlier games. I like to see him maybe do that a little bit more. I don't know, what the kid looks like necessarily as a runner in a vacuum, but he's done well running with the ball. So I think, if I'm doing anything, I say, keep those things up, keep them involved. And the defense looks good. Only give up 20 to a good St. Dominic team. The defense looked really, really good. Like I said, the pass rush has been good. The coverage was really good. They just kind of got gashed in the run game, and St. Dominic just kind of sat on the possession. I don't know what the time of possession was, but it had to be staggeringly different. So the defense kind of controlled what they can control. If they were able to take away a couple of the explosive runs, 10-plus yard runs, I think they gave themselves a fighter's chance. They just, kept just turning it over a little bit too much. Just couldn't find anything there on the offensive side. So I won't dwell on that too long. I'll move on to the game that I was at. Like I say, as all the time, if you don't know, I do play-by-play for Jackson on the radio, 104.7 The Bridge. If you want to listen to me more. The Jackson Indians went to Poplar Bluff and won 69-7. It was bad. It was pretty much another game where it was over from nearly the opening kickoff. First game this season, weird fun fact, Jackson did not start with the ball. Jackson had started with the ball the first 4 games. They won the coin flip and deferred this ball game. But, yeah, 69 points. I was looking at individual stats before we get into the game as a whole. Jalen Hampton had 7 touches total on the ground and through the air. He had 3 touchdowns on those 7 touches, over 100 yards of total offense. They used him as a receiver a lot more this past week, which was interesting. I wonder if that's something that maybe was talked about by college coaches or scouts, things like that, saying like, hey, we want to see you, flexed out into the slot more, things like that. I don't know. But he looked good. He's been having a great year as a receiver out of the backfield and in the slot. And obviously when he does get the ball out of the backfield running it, he's crazy quick, crazy cutting ability in the hole, seeing where the defense is at, adjusting the second the ball touches his hands. He's one of the best I've ever seen. Watching his highlights is very, very, very entertaining. Just watching him like at the point of taking the handoff, it's one of the more impressive things to watch. Drew Parsons, once again, phenomenal. 8 of 11, 212 yards, 3 touchdowns. Played a half, didn't play the entire half even. Played 2 quarters, or played 1.5 quarters, basically. Evan Turley, a big moment I'll get to in a moment. 88 yards receiving and a punt return touchdown. That was 68 yards. Defense was awesome. The only score was on a special teams, miscue later in the game. Dawson Bortner in the middle of the field was phenomenal. He had 10 tackles. Cameron Caldwell was a game wrecker the entire time on the defensive line. Jackson plays 3 down linemen. They usually don't rush more than 4. And Cameron Caldwell's been a beast there. Zayden Johnson had been a beast. He was out this ball game. But Cameron Caldwell was awesome. I mean, they have him down officially with 7 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, and a batted ball. I mean, he impacted more plays than even that, though. I mean, he was in the quarterback's face a lot, causing bad throws, things like that. The only other note as far as individual players go, Jackson did have a couple of injuries, starting center, starting outside linebacker. Grady Boehner and Brett Finley both had an injury of some kind. Both of them were walking around after the injuries, but I know they got held out, I'm sure, for precautionary reasons. Obviously, you don't want to get hurt right now. So we'll just see what the status is on those guys. I don't know. I know Grady had his knee wrapped up. I think Finley's was an ankle after he got in a pile to recover a fumble. It's wished the best. Injuries, I wish you could turn them off. Unfortunately, you can't not, so that's always a big X factor. In the high school season, who's the healthiest at the end of the year? Just kind of getting into the game itself, it was an avalanche. That was kind of the expression I used on the broadcast. I think the third play from scrimmage, Blaine Reagan got a pick 6. Jackson got a 3 and out, I believe, or maybe 4 or 5 plays on the next drive for Poplar Bluff. Jackson immediately scores on 2 plays on a pass to Blaine Reagan over the middle of the field. Bluff gets the ball back. They fumble, and Jackson takes it. And 1 play, 1 score, Jalen Hampton on a wheel route. I think that was somewhat intentional for Coach Nesbitt because Hampton got a wheel route touchdown taken away at Poplar Bluff last week. Or, excuse me, Farmington the week before. And so got him 1 back. Like I said, maybe on the last time I did this, I think Jalen Hampton leads the state in yards and touchdowns taken away. But he made up for it in the ball game. 21-0, I think, on 5 offensive snaps. Jackson led by 21. The week before at Farmington, they had 4 offensive snaps and were leading 21-0. This offense is such a well-oiled machine right now. Just going down the rest of the game, they got a more methodical drive. The next drive, it ended with a 20-yard touchdown by Hampton to go up 28-0. And then after another 3 and out, Evan Turley took that punt. I mentioned 68 yards to the house for a score. He did a lot of the work himself, especially early on. He had good blocking further down the field. But the kid's just a great athlete. Electric with the ball in his hand, super, super quick. Good track speed as well. You see that a lot on this Jackson football team. A lot of guys who are standouts in track. And Turley just had a big day. There's 3, 4, 5 guys every week that could put up huge numbers on the perimeter for this Jackson team. Toma had a crazy game. Turley had a really good game. Or last week, Toma had a great game. This week, it was Turley. I mean, there's so many guys. Brockmeyer's always involved. Great player, good athlete. It was 35-0 at the end of 1 quarter. In the second quarter, Jalen Hampton had a 40-something yard touchdown run after the defense got another stop. And then Jackson defense kind of got tested finally, where Bluff had a really, really big kick return all the way down to the Jackson 24. Their running back, Devin Ferguson, was kick returning, and he played both ways. Kid was kind of I commend the kid for being out there, sticking it out there, played the entire game. And he got run down by Blaine Reagan. Most people do. Not many people are gonna outrun that kid. But Jackson was able to get a stop, got a turnover on downs down there in the red zone. So it's just like Poplar Bluff couldn't do anything. They just couldn't do anything, right? Jackson gets a turnover on downs. Very next play, what do? Drew Parsons over the top, hits Evan Turley 76 yards for a touchdown. He had 2 guys. It was him and Brockmeyer both uncovered, 40 yards downfield. I think Jackson. It was great play design. I mean, just based on film, a play they had run a lot where Toma comes from one side of the field to the other in motion, and they throw that just quick swing pass out there to him in the flat. Great athlete, always picks up a bunch of yards. This time, Parsons takes a snap, looks at Toma, pump fakes, turns his hips, looks downfield. There's just 2 guys just wide open, and he hit Turley. Turley took it to the house to give him a big day. And then that was not all. Jackson did score one more time. They brought in a lot of the second unit guys. And they did hit Toma for a 30-yard screen pass down to like the 1 yard line. And then Gage Parker, who is a beast on the JV a lot of weeks, he plunged it in for the 1 yard touchdown to give Jackson a 56-0 lead at halftime. I mentioned the one score for Poplar Bluff came early in the second half. They got a stop on Jackson's second unit there and blocked a punt, returned it for a touchdown, make it 56-7. Jackson bounces back. Tyler Fisher leading the way at that point, the backup quarterback, who's also the starting corner for the Indians. He, led him on a good drive. He had a really nice run where it was a bad snap. He picked it up. There were two guys right in his face, just like splitting the double team in basketball. He splits them, gets up the field, 20-yard carry, hands it off to Gage Parker. Next play, 13-yard touchdown run, 62-7. And then third quarterback sees the field for the day. Jaden Williams, lefty, led the Indians down the field again. They had a long, I want to say third down. Could have been fourth. I think it was third down. He hit DJ D'Antoine Johnson for 30-plus yards to pick up the long conversion, and then they were inside the 10. I think the very next play, they went under center, if my memory serves. Jet sweep to D'Antoine Johnson, give it back to him. And he got his first varsity touchdown. That was very, very cool for him. DJ is another one of the kids from the Sportsplex days where he's been around since he was 7 or 8 years old and always one of the better athletes there and showing it off. Another kid who's on the JV normally who is always a standout there. I've seen a couple of his games where he's put up 2-3 touchdowns. So the cupboard's still full for the Indians. The Gage Parkers, the D'Antoine Johnsons. I mean, Memphis Maddox got in there, had some nice plays. I think all three of those guys are sophomores. Fisher's a sophomore. This train, I don't think, is going to slow down after this season. So there's not a lot to talk about in this game. I mean, it was wildly uncompetitive. Jackson, Jackson started kind of slow on the ground. They had some issues running the ball. Poplar Bluff kind of sold out for it. They're bringing a lot of guys. So Parsons early was just dotting them up. But the defense was impenetrable. Defense looked great. Again, I mean, they gave up no scores. The only score being this block punt. Poplar Bluff's quarterback was just simply too inaccurate to even compete in the game. I mean, there were guys that were open. He was just leaving a lot of balls behind him. I mean, like I said, he had pressure in his face. Keegan Brugman, Lucas Cox, I mentioned Cameron Caldwell, all these guys were just on the quarterback. They were on him very, very fast, and there's not a lot they could do. Like I said, a lot of second unit guys were able to get in the second quarter, which is always nice. You don't want anybody to get hurt. And then Tyler Fisher struggled early, accuracy-wise, but he got more comfortable. It felt like after getting some reps in the first half and the second half, he looked pretty good. I mentioned it on air. He was the JV starting quarterback as a freshman, and so this year he's moved into the starting spot at corner. So he doesn't play on the JV, so he loses those reps. When he does get brought in, he is getting really brought in cold. But they got him looking pretty good by the end of the game. And Jaden Williams, lefty, pretty good arm. I was impressed there. The young man got in, was slinging a little bit, and connected on one good pass and led him for a touchdown drive. So not a lot of notes. Jackson's going to win a lot of these games they have coming up by a lot the next few weeks. I mean, it's Cape, Sykeston to finish out SEMO Conference play. You got Miller Career at home after that is going to be lopsided. And then at Festus currently undefeated. They went to the state title game in Class 4 last year. Really good program, good coach. They did lose a lot, so I'm impressed that they've started out undefeated. I haven't looked at their schedule too closely, but it's been a game that Jackson still consistently won past years by 30, 40 points. So, like I said, the biggest key is just no injuries, no serious injuries, nobody that's going to be out for the playoffs at this point for Jackson. That's pretty much all they have to worry about for the next month and a half or so. Moving on, last game we had of our Cape County teams is Saxony taking on Marquette Catholic. Marquette Catholic is out of Alton, Illinois. Nice town. pretty solid team that came in. They had played well up to this point. Last year, they were not very good. They look a lot better this season. They're winning ball games. I think they came in with 3 wins. Marquette Catholic does come away with the victory over Saxony, 48-34. There's not a lot I can tell you about the game outside of what I've read. Once again, if you're a person from Saxony and you're seeing this right now or hearing this, hit me up, DMs, or whatever, Caleb Deloach, wherever, look me up. We're on the Exit 99 Sports pages. If there's a way to watch your games, I would love to. I was looking on places to see if I could find a live stream. I did not. So I can just tell you, like I said, what was written about the game. It's, Kai McDowell, another good game. I mean, they put up 34 points. That's enough to be successful a lot of times. The defense, though, struggling, giving up 48 to, like I said, a solid Marquette team. They've had success this season moving the ball. Their offense has been a lot better than it was last year. But still, 48, you're not going to be able to win a lot of games giving up that number of points. McDowell had, I said, a good game early on, had a couple of rushing touchdowns. It's a facet of his game that I think is going to be important throughout the rest of the year. And as he gets older, the kid's a great athlete. Alex Burek had a rushing touchdown. Like I said, the way it was written, Saxony took an early lead, which seems to be a theme. This kind of, and that's something that Coach Turner mentioned. They went up 20-7, but then just like that, Marquette goes on a 21-0 unanswered run to lead by 8 at halftime. And then Saxony did get a touchdown back, make it 28-26. But just like that, the snowball kind of turned into an avalanche. And Marquette put up 20 more unanswered points to go up 48-26. Saxony was able to stop the run, get in the end zone, cut it to that final score. They got an onside kick, but were unable to get back into the end zone. And like I said, I was not able to watch this game. I did go back and watch the Cape game earlier, so I was able to talk about it as much. But, the notes I took from kind of what Coach Turner talked about, a big emphasis seemed like protecting Kai McDowell better. Which, obviously going to be very important. They're a team that seems like they're going to do a lot through the pass game. He is a great talent there at quarterback, only a sophomore. But it seems like he had too many dudes in his face, obviously, to make plays like he would like to. But once again, the offense able to kind of spread it around, put up points. I mean, he scored 34, and then just got to find a way to play a complete football game, right? You lead 20-7 at one point. They had 20 points at halftime. They finished with 34, but you give up 20 there in the second half as well. So got to find a way to play a complete football game. But, you have to commend the way they did fight when getting down. A young team, and if not, if they're not actually young, which a lot of these kids are underclassmen, inexperienced, I mean, these guys might have played football when they were younger. But there's only a year or two of their football program at Saxony. So, inexperience combined with youth at the same time, you do like to see kind of the fight that they've had. They were competitive throughout. This team's never going to, get down, I don't think. Like I said, I like the coaching staff over there quite a bit from the outside looking in. And then the last thing was they give up too many big plays. That seemed like an issue a week ago as well. Against the Sparta team with pretty good athletes on the perimeter. And that's something they're going to get cleaned up because next week they're playing a Charleston team that's going to look for explosive plays. I watched a little bit of their film against Portageville from this past week. They look to take big shots downfield. And so Saxony had to clean up some things, be ready for it because, the schedule has gotten tougher. They've lost back-to-back games. The defense, they've given up 36 a week ago, gave up 48 or 2 weeks ago, 36, and this past week, 48. I mean, the offense is still scoring, 30 in the loss to Sparta, 34 in the loss to Marquette. The defense just got to catch up there on that side. I know they're playing a lot of guys both ways, which makes it really, really tough conditioning-wise as things, go on through the season. But got to find a way to either complement the offense and defense together. I don't know what that looks like necessarily. They don't pay me to do that. But like I said, I'm still high on the Saxony team. It's not going to get any easier. Like I said, they got Charleston. They're at Perryville. Tough games. They finished with a couple more schools from across the river. So it's not going to get any easier, But like I said, I'm still high on this team. A lot of kids I like, a lot of young guys that are playing really, really well. So that'll do it for football. I'm going to kick on over to another sport that's been really popping off here lately in the area, volleyball. A lot of good teams right now, Cape County. I'll kind of go through this past week. Volleyball, Cape took on Scott City, continued their run here, knocked off Scott City 3-1. That same night, Jackson took on a very good Cor Jesus squad at home. Great volleyball. I mean, Jackson won, and I mean, they're the real deal. I'll get to some more of their games later on. This Jackson team, the Jackson football team looks unstoppable. The Jackson volleyball team looks unstoppable, especially in comparison to a lot of local teams. But even, the volleyball team is playing some tough squads. And they've only taken one loss. I think they're, at time of recording here, this is Monday night, they're about to play Saxony, or they're playing Saxony right now. I think they're 21-1. So, I mean, they're one of the best teams in this entire state. They look like a problem. So, I mean, the way they handle Cor Jesus, very impressive. Cor Jesus came out strong. They won the first set. Jackson won the next three. Big time win. Always a big time win over Cor Jesus. They're a powerhouse, all girls school. It was nice. Very nice win. And yeah, they keep it rolling. Saxony dropped one, 5 sets to Oak Ridge, 3-2. Tough for the Saxony team. I like the Saxony team as well. They're young. Also, they have great social media. They post a lot of clips and stuff like that, which I appreciate. They post all their scores, everything. Keep that up. Tuesday, Cape won a 5-set match against Woodland. Woodland, another good small school. Took it to Cape Central a little bit, but the Tigers, very resilient team. I interviewed Coach Macaulay Purdue in the offseason. I like her a lot. I like what they're doing over at Cape Central. And they keep it rolling. Jackson then shut out conference opponent Sykeston on senior night, not very close. They got Jade Cowart, Katarina Ellison, Melena Haynes, Lila Sands, Ava Wessel. All the seniors got in there, played well. Sands and Stella Roosler had 6 kills each. Bella Sestillo had 5 kills. Lola Moody had 12 assists. So they got a lot of people in and out. And, everybody got to contribute. And they got a big win over Sykeston. Saxony dropped another one to St. Genevieve, another tough squad up there in St. Gen. Thursday night, Saxony again played a heck of a week of teams here. They took on Cape Central. The Tigers won. Saxony actually took the first set, 25-12, just steamrolled them. And then Cape immediately flipped a switch. It was close the rest of the way. Cape won 25-23, 25-22, and 25-18. It's the usual suspects. Sydney Miller had 15 kills. Sophie Haggerty had 13 kills. Big number. Caden Kern had 32 assists. 32 assists. It's crazy. Caden Kern, another good athlete. I think she's only a freshman. Another kid that, like I said, has been at the Sportsplex since she was like 5 years old. So I've known her, or I've seen her from afar at least her entire life. And then Eliza Cribley had 6 aces. So there were kids showing up all over the entire court, playing well. And then Jackson went up to Francis Howe and played in a round robin thing, and then went into a tournament. Brought to you by Kids. Not a sponsor, could be. Jackson did not drop a set the entire time they were up there. Continuing the dominance I talked about, they beat Kirkwood 2-0. They beat Oakville 2-0. They beat Parkway West 2-0, and they beat Webster Groves 2-0 in the group stage on whatever pool play. And then in the tournament, there's 2 games. They beat Webster Groves 2-0. They beat St. Dominic 2-0. So, yeah, no, Jackson's they're rolling. They're the real deal. Also on Saturday, West Plains came over, took on Notre Dame and Saxony. They beat Saxony 3-0, but Notre Dame beat them 3-1. So shout out to the Bulldogs, getting a nice win over the Zizzers from West Plains. That is actually the name of their mascot, I guess, whatever their nickname. Zizzers. I don't know. I didn't name them. Boys soccer is the next thing I'll talk about a little bit. This past week, Jackson got a nice win over, I believe, a district opponent. Lindbergh 1-0. Another just tough suburban St. Louis school. So that was a nice win for the Indians. They were kind of up and down a little bit at times this year. They played a tough schedule. So a nice win. Sykeston did beat Saxony 3-1 on Monday. So another, Southeast Missouri team looking tough to beat on Thursday. Cape dropped one up at Melville. Another tough suburban St. Louis squad. Jackson, though, was able to pick up a big victory over an undefeated at the time Perryville team up there at Perryville. I really appreciate the culture Perryville has up there, soccer program-wise. Kind of a machine. I think the overall success has maybe dipped a hair from what it was, whenever, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago when they were state champion type team. So it was a nice win for the Indians, though, going on the road, beating an undefeated team 3-0. Dylan Strothman had 2 goals. Mason Jackson had the other one on a corner. Kid's a good player. And that was the thing. That was the one note I saw from Coach Caleb Beesink. He wants to see his team be a little bit better on corners, set pieces, try to be more aggressive. They were able to do that. And then Friday, Saturday, Notre Dame went across the river and southeast to Kentucky and dropped a couple of games over there. Unfortunately, they lost to McCracken County 2-1, and then they lost to South Warren 3-1. So Bulldogs picking up a couple of L's, but also good experience, tough teams to go over there and compete against. We'll jump to cross country. Just a one-day massive blowout event up there at Columbia, the Gans Creek Classic. I don't remember. There were thousands, plural thousands, kids up there for it total. I think there was college. There were like 4, 5, 6, 12 different divisions. And Cape, Jackson, and Notre Dame were all up there competing. And, they all had people perform well. I'll start with Cape. On the girls' side, they were led by Jamie Dawson-Ide, who was a good multi-sport athlete, good basketball player, great on the track. She ran her 5K in 23:52, and then Lydia Diedeker finished in 24:33. Over on the boys' side, they were led by Wesley McFerrin, 18:17, and then Akita Diaz in 18:39. In both of their divisions, there were like 200-300 kids each. It's crazy. The numbers were just crazy up there. Jackson up there as well. On the girls' side, they were led by Emma Needbalski. She finished in 19:52. And then Hallie King finished in 20:35. They were top 2 finishers for the Indians, both performing well in the highest division up there. And then on the boys' side, same thing. They were in the elite varsity, whatever it was. Aiden Needbalski finished in 15:49. And then Nate Meisner and Chase Wendell actually finished bang with each other at 16:14 each. I think Nate beat them by like a half second. So shout out to those guys. But the big winners in their groups were Notre Dame boys and girls. Notre Dame girls and boys are both in the gold race. They were led by Martina Ressel, who came in first place in the girls gold division. She finished with a time of 18:12. And was followed up by Lily Coy, finished in 5th place, 18:52. So great job by them. I mean, they are 2 of the best, in the area, obviously, but also, in the entire, Mississippi River, up and down, up to St. Louis. They're 2 of the very, very best. I'm excited to see how they progress the rest of the season and how they, eventually do translate up to the state level. And on the boys' side, same result. First place for Aiden Morris in the gold group. He finished with a time of 15:34. And following him was Jackson Jones. He finished in 16:46. He was the second best kid over on the Notre Dame side of things. So great showing by them. Martina Russell's looked really, really good lately. Lily Coy looking good as well. Like I said, I expect both of them to be contenders at state. And then same thing with Aiden Morris. I think he finished 6th last year in state cross-country meet. So I think he'll be there again, be very competitive. When we get to the end of the season, I guess the last thing I will mention, no, I have a couple more things. Softball, Jackson beat Seckman in a ball game on Wednesday, which I think is probably going to be a district opponent, if I had to guess. And then the big one, though, Notre Dame knocks off Jackson 5-3. First time, or they broke a 4-game losing streak to the Indians since 2022. So it was a nice job getting the monkey off your back for Notre Dame. Jackson actually led going into Notre Dame's side of the 5th inning, 3-0. Notre Dame puts up 5 in the 5th to come away with a victory. Good job all around. That 5th inning, like I mentioned, was just a an avalanche is kind of the word I keep using here, but it's an accurate descriptor for what went down there in that one. Like I said, Jackson going up 3-0. You're feeling comfortable, feeling confident. But no, Notre Dame took it right back, came away with a victory. I know Coach Reinigle said he was, impressed with Kenna Johnson on the mound. Does a great job always very, very talented. And yeah, I'll recap that 5th inning here. That was the only one thing I wanted to do. So that 5th inning, 5 runs came across. Kenna Johnson got it started with the double, scoring Macy Killian, and put Johnson on third base after a Jackson error. Eloisa Marquez put down a sacrifice bunt to score Johnson, but also beat out the throw on another error by the Indians. So the Indians kind of shoot themselves in the foot. Ava Miller then doubled to score Marquez before a big hit by Ashley Taylor scored both Miller and J.D. Uzuru for to get the Bulldogs to 5-3 lead. So big inning. And Bulldogs come away with a big win. Like I said, got the Indian-sized monkey off their back. Closing out the rest of the week. A lot of ball games over the weekend. Friday, Cape did drop one 13-0 to DeSoto. But on Saturday, Jackson went to St. Louis, knocked off Cor Jesus 4-0, and then knocked off Incarnate Word 14-7. The football score. Got the big win up there, so they went 2-0. Notre Dame went to Doniphan, played 3 games over there, and went 2-1. They beat Doniphan 10-4. They beat Kelly 4-1, and they lost to Fredericktown 6-5. Some other things. I don't have results in a lot of other events that went on. I know Jackson on senior night beat Farmington in swimming head-to-head on Thursday. But then I do have results for girls tennis, which was capped off by the SEMO Conference Tournament. We'll get there in a second. Kennett, starting the week, though, they knocked off Cape Central. Kennett is unbelievable. As a team, they're just very deep, top to bottom. Jackson beat Dexter 9-0. Notre Dame beat Fredericktown 9-0. And Saxony got a win over Farmington 5-2 as a team. Wednesday, Kennett, tormenting Southeast Missouri, beat Saxony 8-1. And then crosstown rivalry here. Jackson shut out Cape Central, won every match there to go 9-0. And then capped off, like I said, Friday at the SEMO Conference Tournament. Singles, once again, Claire Bean from Kennett wins the SEMO Conference Championship. She gets first, knocked off Ruby Sullivan from Saxon, who got second. Then we get Kira Crawford, the highest finisher of our teams here in Cape County from Jackson, got third. And then she beat, from Cape Central, Liliana Dubs, who came in 4th place. And the doubles, Kennett won. They got first. They knocked off Caroline Galati and Mary Tyler Cox from Notre Dame, so they were the high finisher overall. So shout out to them in doubles, performing well. 3rd place from Jackson was Ellie Osborne and Ella Montgomery, and a duo from Dexter came in 4th. Team results, Jackson came in 2nd behind Kennett. Obviously, Kennett came in 1st, and it was Jackson, then Notre Dame, and then Dexter was the top 4. So that pretty much closed it out for all the stats and things I had for, recap-wise, which then can, I'll talk about the district standings we have. I'll talk about football. Primarily is what I'll just look at here right now. You got Jackson, you got Cape, you got Saxony. Saxony picked up their 2nd loss. Cape got their 1st. Jackson still undefeated. So in Class 6, District 1, the Indians are sitting alone, undefeated in 1st place. They're still followed closely, though, by Seckman, who's 4-1. They're only 3 points behind in their Demisha points. That's a make-believe land. I don't know how it's calculated. And then Northwest is also 4-1, a couple points behind Seckman. Then it's Oakville at 3-2, and then Lindbergh at 1-4. A little bit surprised. Lindbergh struggling a little bit. Coach Norman up there, a little bit of a down season for those guys. Saxony, they are maybe surprisingly, I don't know what the viewer thinks, but they are sitting atop Class 1, District 1, where it's kind of wide open. They're 2-2. Charleston, who they will be playing this week, is 3-2, but they are 10 points behind in the calculations there. So interesting. Portageville is third, who just beat Charleston 2-3, and then Hayti at 2-3 is fourth, and then Malden is in the cellar at 0-5. So very wide open. 1 through 4, I think, could win the district. Maybe. Let's see. Hayti, I know their starting quarterback was hurt, so that's always a big X factor. Will he come back? If he comes back, will he be 100%? We'll get there when we get there. We got a long way to go, but at the moment, the Crusaders, first place. Cape Central dropped their first ball game, so that does knock them out of the top spot. They now sit behind Farmington, both at 4-1. So that matchup when they play each other will be, humongous. And then, so Farmington's 1, Cape's 2, both at 4-1. And then you got Webster Groves at 3-2, Fox at 1-4, ahead of Miller Career Academy at 3-3. Then Melville is 1-4, and then Poplar Bluff is in the cellar there at 0-5. So that'll be an interesting district. It feels like a 2-team battle between Farmington and Cape in the end. I expect them to see each other in the championship game. So that'll be exciting. Something to look forward to. But we'll get there when we get there. We'll see what happens between now and then. And then, talking about what we have coming up this week. I'm recording on Monday, the 29th. So a lot of this stuff you'll know what happens by the time you see this. So like in volleyball, some games going on. Jackson is hosting Saxony. Expect Jackson to keep winning. They go to Oakville. Expect them to keep winning. Then Thursday, though, we have the SEMO Conference Tournament in volleyball. Very exciting. It's always over at the Cape Girardeau Sportsplex. I know they've changed up the format of it, so I don't know exactly what the format is. But regardless, always a very fun time, fun atmosphere. I assume they still do the same thing where you get SEMO North and South over there. So it was just interesting kind of seeing, Charleston's and New Madrid and Kennett, Scott City playing Cape, Jackson, Notre Dame, Poplar Bluff, whoever. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, I'm going to pick Jackson to win. Seems like the definitive favorite at this point. But we could get an interesting, maybe Cape, maybe Notre Dame matchup. Semifinals go to that championship game. So keep an eye on that. Later in the week, Notre Dame will be they'll be hosting Leopold, which is notable because Leopold beat them in Dig for Life 2-1. Leopold looking really, really good as a small school. We'll see if Notre Dame is able to get some revenge. Saxony will host Arcadia Valley as well on Friday. And then Saturday, Cape is going up to Perryville, playing a tournament up there. So keep your eyes out for that. There's some soccer early in the week, but late in the week, things of note here, Cape hosting North County. Jackson really going to be challenging themselves. This team's pretty talented, they're pretty good, but they are going over to Springfield to the Kickapoo Showcase. The ooze got me there. They'll be taking on three games in 3 days. They play Glendale on Thursday, Nixa on Friday, and Kickapoo on Saturday. I mean, I don't know where those teams are at. I mean, Jackson could go 0-3, and it would not shock me. They could win some of these games though, and I would not be surprised either. They're a talented team. I feel like they're starting to put things together. Getting healthy and all that. So definitely pulling for them on a long road trip. And then Saxony also on Thursday will be hosting Dexter. Let's go check that one out. Busy week in softball as well. Early in the week, there's a lot of ball games. Cape and Notre Dame will be facing off. I give Notre Dame a pretty heavy edge in that. Jackson's hosting a good St. Dominic team early in the week. Middle of the week, Cape goes to Chaffee, which will be a handful. Saxony goes to Jefferson up north in Festus, I think. And then Cape is at Bluff. Jackson will be hosting Chaffee on Thursday, which will be interesting to watch. Chaffee's very good. And it'd be interesting. Big disparity in school size, but Chaffee can hang, in my opinion. Friday, Notre Dame going up north, kind of off the beaten path, to Windsor for Windsor Showcase. We'll be taking on Oakville and Rockwood Summit. Girls tennis, we have another, like I said, busy week there as well. A lot of games Monday that we'll recap next week. Tuesday, Cape is on the road. Wednesday, Cape is at Sykeston. and Saxony's at Notre Dame on Wednesday. And then Thursday, Jackson goes up to Windsor. Notre Dame will be at Caruthersville. Expect both of them to be able to get wins there. Girls golf, Tuesday, Jackson and Notre Dame will be going up to St. Joseph's Academy, playing the Angel Classic. And Saxon will be hosting Cape Girardeau. Wednesday, Cape will be in a tri-match against Sykeston and Bluff here in Cape. And then Thursday, Jackson and Notre Dame. Listen here first. Notre Dame and Jackson will be at the St. Gen taking on St. Gen and Valley in like a quad matchup of some kind. But also Jackson is going to be playing in a tri match with Visitation Academy and Father Tolton up north. So I have to assume it's going to be Jackson's JV playing with Notre Dame, St. Gen, and Valley. I don't know for certain, but I assume that. And then Jackson's varsity taking on Visitation and Father Tolton. Then cross country, October 4th, Saturday, Cape, Jackson, Notre Dame, and Saxony will all be over at Notre Dame. Notre Dame Invitational, right down the road from my house, so might go check it out. Boys swimming and diving. Early in the week here, Cape challenging themselves up at John Burroughs in CBC. Tough two teams to take on there. And then Friday, Saturday, Cape, Notre Dame, and Jackson will be in Columbia, Missouri at the Como Invitational. Don't know too much about it, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of big-time competition. And, it's going to be really tough on the kids, but good competition. Get them ready for the end of the season. And looking at football, close us out. Saxony will be taking on Charleston. This is one I had circled to begin the year. I thought they would be undefeated going into it. At the moment, Charleston sits at 3-2. They did just lose to Portageville, which was kind of a surprise to me. I know it was a big night at Portageville in some capacity, like homecoming or Hall of Fame, something. I'm not sure exactly. But I was really surprised at the outcome. So I went back. I watched a little bit of it. I haven't watched the whole thing yet. But they lost 27-18. Portageville was able to kind of run on Charleston, which I expect Saxony can be able to have the same success. They were moving the ball through the air and on the ground. They were running on them early. When they needed to, they were hitting passes over the top even. So I think this is a team. I think it's going to be another high-scoring ball game. If you made me really kind of lean more into it here. Charleston, really good athletes. They're probably going to look to keep it on the ground quite a bit, but they do have guys at receiver who can burn you, right? They've got dudes on the outside. You'll see a lot of familiar names. If you watch Charleston basketball, there's a lot of those guys that play football as well. DK Williams, Trenez Lane. I'm sure there's Trayshawn Shandon, I think, also plays football. So, they have a lot of really good athletes, multi-sport kids. They do look for big plays. They ran a lot of like weird misdirection stuff, a lot of like kind of trick plays, just straight up, just like wide receiver passes and things like that. Really good athletes on the perimeter. They have decent size at the line of scrimmage, but I don't think it's anything that Saxon would have issue with. I do think it'll be a good game. I just think it's going to be another close, high-scoring game. Charleston has not been super explosive. They only average 27 points a game. They're giving up 20. Whereas Saxony is scoring 38, giving up 27. That was kind of helped out early in the season. Like Veritas Christian kind of stinks, and they go put up 50 on them. We shall see. This is at Saxony, right? Yeah, or maybe at SEMO, I'm assuming. So this will be interesting. I'm going to keep being a homer. It says it's at Saxony. So if that is the case, I'm going to be a super homer and say Saxony wins the ball game. But we will put it in a little bit of a 50-50 type of situation. But I will proclaim I'm going to give Saxony a big win over Charleston. Well, yeah, okay. So it said they're going to be playing at Saxony they play at Saxony against Donovan. So I don't know where it's going to be. It's probably going to be at Halk. But regardless, I think this is the week Saxony gets off the schneid. They get a win over Charleston going into a tough one at Perryville the week after that. My bold proclamation of the day. And then finally, we can close off with the big one, right? The big rivalry It gets all the news, it gets the headlines and stuff like that. It gets all the kids chirping online. It gets all the old people angry because people are stealing things and painting things or saying mean things. I don't know. Who cares? Cape is at Cape is at Jackson. Jackson's undefeated. Cape is 4-1. Numbers. Jackson's averaging 42 points a game. They give up 14. Cape averages 23 points a game. They're giving up 13. The fun facts I saw that Coach Nesbitt, I think, posted the other day was Cape actually holds a 6-game lead still in the all-time series, but Jackson has won 9 consecutive, looking to make it 10 in a row. And also, if Jackson does win, this would be win number 699 all-time in their school's history, trying to be, one of the few to ever win 700 in the state of Missouri. So that's very cool. Just kind of going, off the dome here as far as the game goes. I mean, look, Jackson is a lot better. They are a lot better. They are really good. This is one of the 5 to 10 best teams in the entire state of Missouri, regardless of classification. They have been bulldozing, running over, running by, running around everybody. They've played in the SEMO Conference so far. They played 3 teams to start the year that were as big or bigger, as fast or faster at every position. And they won. They beat, teams with D1 kids, teams with SEC kids. It hasn't mattered. Jackson's going to win every game in the SEMO Conference this year. They're going to win every game big. This is not going to be an exception. I like Cape a lot. I like Coach Gibbs. I like a lot of the other assistant coaches. I like what I've seen out of the players. I like Aiden McGuire. I like Murray. I like Bridges. I like Clemens. I like Robinson. I like Husky. I like all these kids. I like the team a lot. This Jackson team's really good, and Jackson's going to win this game. They're going to win by a lot. It's just kind of we're not going to be. I don't feel like I have to be super dance around it. I think Cape is going to come out and play really hard and probably play as competitive or as well as any other team in the SEMO Conference can against Jackson. I think to come out and fight really hard. Like I said, it's a big rivalry. It is very meaningful to these kids. They, if you're 17, you were like in kindergarten the last time that Cape beat Jackson, so you've never seen this happen. But look, last year, people doubted Jackson going to Cape, whatever. They got blown out against 2 awesome teams. And Cape was killing people, and Cape had some kids that were really good, and those kids aren't there. Zaire Thomas, Keyshawn Boyd, Cartez Hopkins, Sean Shelton, a lot of kids, the Pittmans. And it was still, let's pull up exactly what it was. It was still a blowout. There was a second. I thought going into it, I thought Jackson would win. I thought it would be competitive, potentially. I thought Jackson would still win by maybe 2 scores. A lot of people were thinking, hey, this might be the year. And Jackson went in. They gave up a touchdown on the first play of the game. And I was in the booth calling the game, and I was like, well, this is kind of what Cape needs. They need to hit big plays. And I think Jackson turned it over on downs, and I'm like, oh, this could be going the wrong direction. And then Jackson scored 42 straight points. So, yeah, I think Jackson's going to win. They're probably going to win by a lot. And I just hope nobody gets hurt. I hope both these teams just come out healthy, and we'll keep it rolling. Jackson wins their 10th consecutive game over Cape Central. And, yeah, it'll be what it'll be. Like I said, I don't want to be mean, but I don't want to dance around it either. My wife works for Cape. I have a lot of friends who work for Cape. All of her friends work for Cape. But yeah, no, this is going to be the Indians. This is going to be the Indians big, and it is what it is. I hope everybody be good. Everybody act good. Nobody say anything inappropriate to each other. Nobody do anything they regret. Nobody do anything dumb in the parking lot. Nobody do anything dumb after the game. Nobody do anything dumb before the game. Nobody do anything dumb in the stadium. That's all I ask. Be smart. Don't be silly. Young people, be goofy, be silly, haha. Do things that are insignificant. Don't do anything that will get you in major, major trouble. That's all I ask. All right. Let's get out of this game. All of us with all of our records of all kinds intact. All right. So that's all I ask. Let's keep it let's keep it smart. Let's keep everything under control. All right. That's all I ask. No goofiness, nothing silly. All right. But yeah, I think Jackson's going to win. Where can Cape have success? I think their defensive backs are tough. They're very quick. They're good athletes. That hasn't stopped Jackson from being able to throw it on really good teams. If I want to get into some parts of this game, I think Cape can sell out to try to get to the quarterback and or stop the run and have success doing one or the other for sure. At the end of the day, I think Jackson will just be able to move the ball, right? They've got 2 giant tackles. They might be without the starting center. That'll be an interesting thing to watch. The backup center came in, played just well. I think it was Caden Chavez. Don't quote me on that. I like what I've seen. Cape Central had a tough time against St. Dominic. And if you made me give a Jackson versus St. Dominic score, I think Jackson would win that game by 5 touchdowns. So, it is what it is. There's not too much analysis, I don't think, that I need to do per se, but Parsons has looked great. He's taken care of the ball. Hampton has looked stronger, faster than ever. The weapons have looked great on the perimeter. Toma, Turley, Brockmeyer, Reagan, all been phenomenal. I think there's too much. I think Jackson will just pull away. I think Cape, like I said, traditionally I think Cape will probably start quick and they'll play well early in the ball game, and I just think over time Jackson will wear on them. I don't know if they just are complete enough to beat the Indians. And, it's not a bad thing to say. Jackson has just scored, they're averaging 60-something points a game the last 2 weeks. So it is what it is. You have to move on. Hope nobody gets hurt. Like I said, that's all that matters. Hope everybody acts smart and doesn't get in trouble. So I'll quit repeating that over and over again, but that's just the only thing that I think about a lot of times in these games. Because like I said, my wife works at Cape, and so I am genuinely concerned about the kids and all things like that. And all their actions and how everything reflects upon you. Anyway, before I get too weirdly off kilter here, that pretty much does it for me and everything else. I don't really have too much else to talk about. We're getting closer to the end of the season in a lot of different sports. I saw, there's some sports that's postseason is only a couple weeks away. And it's crazy. I think like tennis, things like that is really wrapping up very, very soon. Like district tournaments will be October 9th. So that's crazy. Some things are much later. Football teams will play later depending on how far they go into postseason, things like that. Some teams will be playing up until Thanksgiving, give or take, or maybe later, hopefully. So, we're in the middle of it right now, but it is coming to a close. So, every week I tell you guys, get out there, go see these games. I've talked about a lot that's coming up this week. So, yeah, go see it. Go check out one of these football games. I wish, if you're still watching this, like an hour into this, tell me where to watch Saxony's football game, or somebody's hook me up. Send me the all 22 here. So thank you guys. Appreciate it as always for watching, for listening. Go watch these kids. Go watch what they've been doing. See the fruits of their labor. They've all been working hard, playing hard. It's the middle of the year. They're all beat up. They're all sore. They're all tired. Kids are playing through injuries, things like that. So go support them. We got some really, really good teams in Southeast Missouri across all sports. So go check them out. Go be involved. Go be a good fan. Go find a new sport that you haven't watched before. And, you might fall in love with it. It might be really, really fun. And that's all I can ever hope for. Get more people involved, get more people supporting these young people who put a lot of time, put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into what they do. So, and give me the ability to sit here and air conditioned room. Talk about it. Yeah. So thank you guys. Thank you as always. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Go to the YouTube channel, subscribe there. Tell a friend, check it out. Appreciate it. As always, thank you guys. Have a good one, and we will see you next week. Take it easy.